Okay, so in the absence of that, let me go ahead with welcoming Stephen, who is here. Thank you so much, Stephen, for your commitment to joining us for even this first borderless webinar. So the brief introduction that we have here of Stephen is a chemical petrochemical engineer with a passion for human capital and development. Over the past 6 years, he has been actively involved in coordinating, implementing, and supporting programs in the education and development space, with a particular focus on bridging the educational equity gap and promoting children's capacity development. Stephen is a 2021 alumnus of the prestigious Teach for Nigeria Fellowship Program, where he served as a teacher in a low-income community for 2 years, dedicating himself to improving the educational outcomes of his students. During his time with the fellowship, he developed a deep understanding of the challenges faced by the low-income students and work tirelessly to ensure that they receive the education and support they needed to succeed. With his unique set of core competencies, which includes training, facilitation, collaboration, teamwork, and program and instructional design, effective communication, relationship building, and data analytics, Stephen has been able to leverage his expertise in the development space to create impactful and innovative educational programs. Currently, Stephen works as a recruitment associate for Teach for Nigeria, a non-profit organization that seeks to bridge the equity gap in the education space in Nigeria. In this role, he has been instrumental in identifying and recruiting talents and committed individuals to join the Teach for Nigeria movement and help transform the lives of thousands of children in Nigeria. In addition to his work for Teach for Nigeria, Stephen is also a volunteer selector with RISE program. This program identifies promising young people and provides them with opportunity to serve others while deepening their skills and ability. Stephen is deeply committed to this program and believes that it has the potential to create a new generation of leaders who are passionate about making positive impacts in their communities. Stephen, therefore, is such an honorable pleasure for us to have you. So from now onward, you can take on the floor. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Seth. That was really a wonderful welcome. If you would permit me, guys, I may have to turn off my video so that I could save bandwidth. I'm still in Nigeria, so yeah. So I could save bandwidth and then would have a smooth flow. Okay, so our topic is hiring for resilience, strategies for finding top talents in a tough business environment. I'll try to be very fast, even though I will be slow. Yes, so, all right. Seth, can you confirm that the slide moved just
Yeah.
because of the technique? Oh, okay, fantastic. So, I'll be taking us through an overview of the current global business environment, what is resilience, and why it is an essential trait for employees to possess. I'll be taking us through strategies for identifying resilient candidates during a hiring process. And then I'll be talking about tips for building a resilient workforce because, of course, it doesn't just stop, when we hire these people. What are the cultures that we are imbibing in our organization to ensure that these resilient people stay, right? I'll be walking us through examples of successful hiring strategies and an example of successful hiring strategy, and then I'll give us some actionable takeaways. And if you have any questions, which I'm hoping you will do, I will take that. All right, moving on. Seth, please, if at any point you stopped hearing me or anything, please just let me know so I wouldn't be talking to myself. So, an overview of the current global business environment. I want to strongly believe that all of us are probably aware of, how the business environment globally have changed, right? So COVID-19, caused a lot of disruption to a good extent, in a very good way, I would say, because of course it opened up a lot of opportunities, right? So we have that by in 2020, Nigeria's unemployment rate stood at about 33%. That's according to National Bureau of Statistics, which is an increase from the 23.1% recorded in 2018, right? The NBS also reported that the underemployment rate in the country rose to 22, slightly above 22% in 2022. That's up to 20% from 2018. And then if we go a bit globally, in the US, the unemployment rate reached its highest level since the Great Depression, peaking at 14.8% in April. That's in 2020, while it has since declined to around 4.2%. And then we know that, this caused a lot of a high level of unemployment and underemployment that have created a highly competitive job market with many job seekers vying for limited opportunities, in Nigeria, globally. In addition, the pandemic also resulted in many changes to the hiring process, right? The hiring processes changed a lot, with many organizations shifting to virtual hiring, right? Having remote work arrangements. We have that 70% of US employees work from home, at least some of the time, right? This according to a study by Stanford University. So how does this affect us as HR professionals, as recruiters, in the organization? Because of this challenging business environment, right? HR professionals in Nigeria, globally, we need to develop strategies that take into account some of these challenges, right? For example, people are beginning to hire on social media, cold calling via people's DM on LinkedIn and all of that, right? Recruiters now use a lot of data and analytics, to hire people, right? So, by adapting to the current business environment and utilizing some innovative hiring strategies, we as HR professionals, recruiters, we can identify and hire resilient candidates who are well suited to the demands of um, today's job market, right? And that will bring me to resilience. So, what is resilience? Seth, can you confirm that I still have the audience? Can I see thumbs up or something? Let me just know that we are still together.
We are together.
Oh, okay, fantastic. So, resilience is the ability to adapt and recover quickly in the face of adversity, changes, or a stressful situation. This can be in our personal life, in our business, in our workplace, right? It's an essential trait for employees to possess because it allows them to maintain their focus and performance in the face of adversities, which can lead to an improved productivity, innovation, and employee well-being. Right? Every employer who employs labor, who employs someone to work, is all what that person is interested in is what you can deliver, right? How productive are you, right? If it's in a production company, the amounts of goods you can produce, maybe benchmarking you to a time metrics and all of that. So it's all about improved productivity, because of course, if you're not making money for an employee, for an employer, personally, I don't think that employer would keep you in his or her organization, right? So, what are some of the traits of resilient employees? So, what are some of the things that when we see in an employee, we can say, okay, this employee is quite a resilient person. I have people who persist in the face of setbacks and challenges, be it personal setbacks or even work setback. They learn from mistakes and failures. People who are open-minded, they adapt to new situations and changes. Say, for instance, an organization who works fully on site, and then the COVID happened, and they are changing their work process to first hybrid, and then using the hybrid to do a test run to see if they can become remote first, right? So employees who are able to adapt to new situations and changes, um, employees who improve problem on their problem solving skills, right? Because of course the workplace is full of uncertainties, right? But the ability to be able to adapt, face problems head on. We're in a town hall meeting yesterday at Teach for Nigeria, and when the head of finance, gave her own presentation, and the person who was anchoring the meeting now asked that she didn't mention anything about challenges for the first quarter. She said, well, they don't really have any challenges because as the challenges come up, they solve it head on, right? So that's, by the way, I would probably be mentioning a lot of things from where I work, Teach for Nigeria. So especially when I get to the slide where I'll do a case study for us, giving us example of the resilient hiring process and all of that. So you hear me mentioning Teach for Nigeria a lot. So we have resilient employees maintain a positive attitude and motivation. This one is very key, right? This one is very key because again, most of our workplace are really high paced because we want to deliver value. We are keen on excellence and all of that. So employees, we need to employ people even when they don't have this trait in them. When they become our employees, we need to build organizational culture that will bring out this positive attitude and motivation in them. In every team there needs to be that one person who when the work is getting overwhelming, he or she always finds a way to help the other people relax, help them feel stress free. And finally, um, resilient employees cope with stress and anxiety, right? According to a study by Harvard Business Review, employees with high level of resilience are more likely to be engaged in their work. They are more likely also to have higher job satisfaction because, of course, the mindset with which they approach work. So, as much as the work is stressful, is demanding, is engaging, they are approaching it with a positive mindset, right? They are approaching it with an open mind. So they are more likely to have a higher job satisfaction. And they are less likely to suffer from burnout, right? Additionally, a study by the American Psychological Association found that resilient employees have better physical and mental health, right? And of course, they have lower absenteeism because it's all encompassing. Somebody who is open-minded, somebody who has a positive attitude and always self-motivated to come to work will of course be at work, and they always have increased job performance. So resilience is very, very key, right, in sourcing for candidates. Moving forward, I would take us on a ride through strategies for identifying resilient candidates. Um, Permit me to say that this is not exhaustive, right? I just decided to mention five. It can go on and on and on and on, right? Now, during the hiring process, this is not like um, how would I put it now? Like this is not limited to say during the interview process, or some of them are for the interview process, and some of these points are even for before the interview process, and even when we are putting out the JD for the job, for the people that we are looking for, right? I said ask behavioral interview questions that focus on resilience, right? These are questions that seek to know how the candidate has handled challenges and setback in the past. For example, a very well, I would say a very common question is tell me about the time when you faced a difficult challenge at work. How did you handle it? What did you learn from that experience? I think this one is quite generic, right? But of course, we want to keep it as simple as possible so that when it's that simple and candidates still find it difficult to get through, we know that well, this candidate is just not a fit for us, right? So ask these behavioral questions. Look for evidence of adaptability. Look for evidence of adaptability. It Resilience often, it always goes hand in hand with adaptability. Candidates who have experience adapting to changing situations in their workplace, who have experience working in diverse environments, who have experience managing diverse situations, even in their own personal life. So I keep stressing. I like to always stress on the personal life because it may not always be at the point of interview. A candidate might just easily remember his experience in his personal life at home, in the church, or whatever, and not a particular work environment. Or he or she might want to not mention work related situation. So it's also good to keep that open. Review their work history. Look for candidates who have successfully navigated difficult situations in their work history, such as project failures. They work in a dynamic team. Candidates who have worked in a startup. Oh, very important. Candidates who have worked in a startup, because of course we know that startups can be very, very dynamic, right? Candidates who have maybe started up an initiative before, even though they didn't get to the finishing line of such initiative. Maybe they started it and then built it to an extent and handed it over to somebody else who is a better finisher than they are. Candidates who have supported maybe social innovations and all of that, right? This can indicate that they have resilient mindset. References. So the reference that a candidate provides can also go a long way to help us to measure the resilient level of this candidate, right? When we talk to the reference and we want to know about this person, we ask questions about how the candidate respond to difficult situations, how they manage their emotions, especially, if, of course, the reference would have been somebody who know this candidate for a minimum of 2 years. For some people, they ask for at least 5 years, but a minimum of 2 years should be able to know if this person can manage their emotions very well. And one of the one, it seems I saved the last for the best for the last, right? Using personality assessments or other data-driven assessments online. This one is so fantastic because, of course, we know how wonderful, how good, how awesome artificial intelligence,
Hello, please, is anyone hearing Steven
data-driven
still? I
decision
still
or
can't follow through.
data-informed
I'm not hearing
decisions
him at this point.
help. Hello, did I? This is somebody saying something? Seth, can you?
Hello,
I heard
Ife
something.
or Dan, can you help me confirm that Steven is speaking?
Oh, hi. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Oh, okay. The issue is on my end. Thank you. Continue. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so I'm good, right? Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
So, personality test is just something you know. I think every organization should really use, right? Because um, irrespective of what you're looking for in a candidate, I strongly believe there is a test, for it. If you're looking for resilience, there are tests that, as a matter of fact, when candidates take this personality test, you can as well from the back end when you get to the result filter to whatever you're looking for. You're looking for a resilient candidate is there. You're looking for candidate with an open growth mindset is there. You're looking for so just whatever you need, right? Some examples of these personality tests off of my head: Big Five or Hogan Personality Inventory. They can provide some of these insights, right? So before I move to the next slide, which is tip for building a resilient workforce, right? So after hiring this or identifying this resilient candidate, how do you,
Sorry,
ensure
Steve.
that
Sorry.
resiliency is keyed into the organization culture, right? Candidates are built on this particular trait, right? Before I move to that slide, let me mention that resilience can be a complex trait. It can be difficult to measure through a single interview or assessment, right? So it is always recommended to use a combination of strategies that can help you identify candidates who are likely to be resilient and who of course, will thrive in the challenging work environment in your business and who will deliver um, the kind of value that you seek, right? All right, moving on. I think I'm too serious in this presentation. I didn't remember to put an icebreaker somewhere. I usually like to have an icebreaker so we can ease out some tension because all of these things seem to be just way too serious stuff. All right, that's on the lighter note. So, tips for building a resilient
Um,
workforce, right?
sorry,
Provide
Stephen. Sorry,
training and
Stephen.
development.
Stephen, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can.
I don't think your slide is moving. It's still stuck at overview of current global business environment. I don't think your slide is moving.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Oh my. So can you
Yes,
confirm
it
that?
has, yes, it has
Can you
changed.
see?
It has changed.
Oh, please,
It's
I'm
showing
so
tips for building
sorry.
a resilient workforce.
Uh,
Yes.
I'm so sorry. So it was stuck here.
Yes, it was stuck there.
Oh wow. Oh wow. So sorry about that. So I'll just breeze through the other slides. So this is I think I may have to share these slides with Seth after now. So um, the participants can actually have it. Yeah.
That would be great.
So these are the traits of resilient employees. I will just do well to share it after now. I'm so sorry about that, and thank you for pointing that out.
That's fine.
Yeah. So tips for building a resilient workforce, right? The number one, which is honestly, this one is so important, so important, right? Provide training and development opportunities. So one of the things I love so much about Teach for Nigeria that if I were to whenever I think I'm ready to move on, if I were to go to any other organization, my very first, of course, there is a compensation part, so let's not talk about that one, right? But my very key thing that I look out for is the training and both professional and personal development opportunities that is provided by an organization where I am going to, right? What are the training and professional development opportunities? So This one is so important. Please invest in your employees' skills and offer opportunities for growth and development. Right? There is a quote I came across sometime on the internet. I don't know if I can remember exactly how it was said, but I will try. I think it goes, um, train, I mean, develop your employee so much that, honestly, I've forgotten, but it talks about, training your employees that they would not want to leave, but then train them so much that when they leave, they'll be they'll be happy with the trainings that they receive from it, something like that. But yeah, it was only the that particular quote is only stressing on how important it is to train and retrain employees. Don't not minding, whether they will leave your organization and move on later. Of course, change is the only thing that is constant, right? So just, invest in these employees, right? This can help employees develop new skills and perspectives, which can improve their ability to handle change and adversity. I remember towards the end of last year, Teach for Nigeria sent a link, and they were asking us to provide our training needs, right? And this training are not just limited to trainings, in our department. So I work as a recruitment associate, and of course, we work with a ton of data, right? We work with a ton of data because our program is, the Teach for Nigeria Fellowship Program is such that we recruit a large amount of young graduates and deploy them into the classroom to experience the problems in the education sector for 2 years, right? So we recruit a lot and we have a lot of numbers. So far this year, we are still, the recruitment process for fellows is still undergoing, and we've received over 10,000 applications. So you can imagine the amount of numbers that we run through, right? So as a recruitment associate, normally I would want to be asking for training on the recruitment side and all of that. But no, because I'm quite interested in data, I've always been a data person. Data have always excited me. I went ahead requesting for data analytics training and all of that, right? And of course, I'm trusting that the HR department, the organization will look into that and they will offer that support. So that's just me mentioning example of the point, right? Offer support during difficult times. When employees have difficulties, maybe adverse health challenges, family challenges, there should be somewhere in the organization policy where it can offer some form of, some monetary token. And then, of course, let it be in the organization culture, that members of staff offer their own support, moral support, social support, and all of that. It goes a very long way. Foster a positive work culture. So this positive work culture can come in different ways, right? We can encourage open communication. Again, I would cite an example from Teach for Nigeria, where we have in our HR policy of not calling by titles. So you come to Teach for Nigeria, and me, who is a recruitment associate, I'm calling the CEO for Lawe by her name. As a matter of fact, is even a punishable offense if I call her CEO, or I call the HR Madam HR, or HR, or when I'm talking to her, I call her Ma or Sir. Is actually a punishable offense, right? So, what does this do in an organization? It gives room for open feedback, right? So if you come to the last time we were in our retreat early this January, we went for lunch, and then one of the, I'm just citing these examples to, to buttress my point. So one of the people one of the waitress, were introducing her to our CEO, and him rather to our CEO, and he found it difficult to believe that she was our CEO. Why? Because we're all in the room, we just were all in the hall where we were having lunch, and anybody could just walk up to her and, hi Folawe, good afternoon, how you doing, how's the retreat so far, calling the CEO by her name and just being open to communicate, right? Now, this is not about maybe farmsing, let me use that informal word, the CEO. No, it's not about that. It's about what this does is, even in the organogram, even the last person in the cadre in the company organogram can have a very brilliant idea, right? You can have something you want to share, and you can easily walk up to the CEO and share, oh, Folawe, I was thinking about this program, and things like that. It encourages open communication. It encourages collaboration and a supportive work environment. You see people from the impact measuring team supporting us in the recruitment, those in the learning in the learning and development team supporting recruitment supporting alumni. There is that supportive work environment, right? When employees feel supported and connected to their colleagues, they are better equipped to handle challenges, right? Across horizontally and vertically across teams, right? Celebrate successes, very important. Celebrate people's successes, individual successes, team successes. Celebrate successes, right? When employees put in hard work and they make reasonable achievements, celebrate them, and celebrate them openly, where everybody will be a part of this celebration. It helps to build confidence and motivation, which are key components of resilience. I remember the very first time my manager gave me a feedback that she loves the way how I take feedback, right? The open-mindedness with which I take feedback. I felt elated, right? I felt good, right? Hearing that from her. And of course, and that's because, over time, personally, I've come to love feedback so much as a tool for growth, right? So much so that, no matter how hard the feedback is hitting, right? How raw it is coming, especially when I'm not at my best, right? I welcome it and I appreciate it so much, and I use that to, become a better person, become a better employee, become a better professional, right? So let's always celebrate, encourage self-care. This can go maybe this can be from the aspect of the HMO, encourage employees to take breaks, and also put it in the company culture, encourage employees to exercise, go to visit the gym every once in a while, take their wellness and personal care, as part of something that is imbibed in the organization's culture. Embrace change, of course. Be open to change, right? Before now, Teach for Nigeria has been an on-site organization, meaning we always go to the office. But then COVID happened, and right now we go to the office just 2 times in a week. And for the past 1 month, we have been working fully remote. Why? Because of the cashless or the cash whatever policy in Nigeria, that everybody, people find it difficult to have cash, and then the election process and everything, everybody is now working from home for the past 1 month. But because we have embraced this change since 2020, and everybody knows that working from home or not, you have to deliver, right? At 9 o'clock, I'm on my desk, and until 5 p.m., I'm available for whatever is coming from my manager, whatever tasks I need to. And so it is across the organization, right? So be always open to embrace change in your company. Let it not be that, okay, take for instance, again in Teach for Nigeria, our policy is 2 days in the office and 3 days at home. And then it now happened that this cash policy came up and people are complaining, oh, they don't have cash. People are complaining, oh, this election issue in my community, they've been shooting, and you are telling them, well, the policy says you must come to the office 2 times. Or it's may not really make good sense. There was a caption that went around sometimes, I think in February, online of I think that was in February. That was when this whole cash policy was hitting hard in Lagos, and there was this HR that was hammering on the need, the fact that work has to be done or not. Although I try to see things from the lens of some organizations who are into production, right? So if you're into production, there is no way I will be working from home and producing, right? But again, the tone of passing this message also matters, right? So yeah. So provide trainings, offer support, foster a positive work culture, and yeah, we have all of that. Moving on, I think I'm almost rounding up. So this is where I want to give us a typical case study of, hiring process that involves checking out for and again, I just kept this slide blank because here I'm just going to freestyle, talking about Teach for Nigeria. I will try not to bore you so much with what we do at Teach for Nigeria. I promise I will not bore you so much. So Teach for Nigeria, our hiring process in Teach for Nigeria is somewhat in two different scenarios. So we have the HR team that hires for the organization. For example, when I was going through the hiring process for recruitment associates, there is that team that manages that, and then there is a team called recruitment selection and matriculation team that hires the large number of young persons that we hire for our fellowship program at Teach for Nigeria. So there is that recruitment process, and there is also this internal recruitment process. But I will just walk you briefly through through these two processes to highlight how we get to sift through over the tens of thousands of applications that we receive to picking a few hundred persons for the fellowship each year, who we believe are very resilient and who over time has proven to be very resilient, because the work that they do in underserved communities where we go, let me even personalize it, because I was also an alumni of the fellowship, right? The work that we do is very tedious, very difficult, and if you are not resilient, trust me, you will drop out before the 2 years. It's that hard, right? There are a lot of challenges that you meet in this community. So for the fellowship recruitment, right, we have about 4 stages, right? Yeah, 4 stages. And of course, only going through that 4 stages is enough to even show how resilient you are, right? So the very first stage is visiting our application portal, and then there is the registration stage. From the registration stage, you will get an email that will now launch you to the application stage, right? And then in the application stage, part of what we require is 3 essays, right? Now, these 3 essays, the first one is leadership, because the Teach for Nigeria Fellowship Program is a leadership development program. We are not just sending you into the classroom to go and teach for 2 years and become teachers. The aim is to build leaders who will, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 100 years, will have a critical mass of young leaders who are tackling the problems in the education sector in Nigeria and in Africa, right? So we ask for 3 essays: leadership experience, your motivation to join Teach for Nigeria, and your 5 years plan, right? Now, in this leadership essay, we make it, we try to help you understand that we need you to tell us of, a situation where you have demonstrated leadership, right? And we precisely mentioned in that form that you should use the STAR approach, which states a situation, the task, the action that you took, and then the result, right? Now, within this leadership essay, we're also looking out for resilient candidates, right, who have demonstrated both leadership and resilience in that essay, right? And then after reviewing that particular stage of application, those who are successful through that stage of application are invited to take an online test, right? This online test is quite cheap. It's not something too difficult. Just to test their basic numeracy and literacy skills, right? And then from there on, people who pass that test are now taken into the last 2 phases of the final evaluation, right? They are invited for a virtual final evaluation stage where we evaluate them on their teaching and pedagogical skills, and then also we give them a critical thinking test, right? This critical thinking test is, of course, again, critical thinking is part of the soft skills needed by a resilient person. And the people who are successful through this stage are then invited to an in-person final evaluation where we give them scenario-based questions. We paint scenarios of cases that we have received over the 5 years plus that Teach for Nigeria has existed. Cases in the classroom, in the community, and we want to see how they would tackle this case in all of, most especially in this final evaluation stage, where we provide this scenario-based question, and we also have a team activity for them to undergo. We are checking out for candidates who demonstrate resilience, candidates who demonstrate teamwork, candidates who demonstrate leadership, right? So all of this process, for some persons, some persons might at the end of the second stage feel like, why is this thing so difficult? And I'm not doing it again, please. So it is all designed in such a way that we really want to stretch you, right? And of course, get the best out of you. And then it doesn't end there, right? For people who again become successful in the final stage, we matriculate them into what typically they are going to see when they go into their communities as Teach for Nigerian fellows. Now, this matriculation part is where again we try to imbibe or inculcate into them this resilient spirit, right? By passing them through a series of programs which involve taking online courses, watching TEDx videos, going for school visits, visiting typical communities like the communities that we work with, and then there is now a training pre-service training institute where again we pass them through rigorous training exercises and all types of activities, just again to inculcate this resilience in them, right? So this is just a typical hiring process for the Teach for Nigeria fellowship program. Now, for the hiring process for internal staff, which I personally went through, that one is my God, is I don't even know how to describe it, right? It's quite a lot, right? Part of the process is a case study and a typical work scenario. So when I was coming in as a recruitment associate, I was given a task to write an invitation letter to a particular school, in seeking audience to come and talk about Teach for Nigeria. I was given a real recruitment data to analyze. Of course, I told them in my application that I have data analytics skills and that I'm interested in data. I love data and all of that. So of course, they needed to test that, right? And oh my God, I thought I would say that that particular recruitment process really helped me a lot to again practice my data analytics skills. So I was given a raw data that I needed to clean. I needed to clean this data. I needed to get insights from it, present a pivot table and all of that, right? So it was a whole lot. And then of course, finally, I did a presentation. There was also an aspect of it where I did it. This was all recruitment process. So I've not become an employee yet, right? So it was more like, if I were to summarize that process of the staff hiring of Teach for Nigeria, it was more like doing the job, right, before I get hired to do the job. Yeah, that's more like a summary of what I would say about that. It was more like doing the job before I got hired to do the job. And it was interesting. It was really interesting. So much that even if I wasn't hired, I wasn't successful, but thank God I'm successful. That's why I'm currently a recruitment associate. Yeah. So, but even if I wasn't successful, that process was already a learning process for me. And I had to give that feedback to the HR when I came in. I told her that, wow, that this our hiring process is really top notch. Like if I eventually didn't get hired, only the learning, the key takeaway, the learning for me, what I've learned passing through this process is enough for me to even, seek out for another opportunity elsewhere, right? And again, that goes to say how much the organization have adapted some of these strategies for hiring and building a resilient workforce. So I think I'm getting to my penultimate slide, or the last slide. So I will just check in with us to ensure that I'm still carrying everybody along and that you can see my final slide. Hi, everyone.
Yes, we can.
Seth,
Yes, we can.
Precious.
Yes, we can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Yes, we
you.
can. Well done. Well with
Oh,
you.
okay. Okay, fantastic. So, in closing, or in rounding up, these are some of my actionable takeaways, right? Look for diverse experiences from candidates, use behavioral interviewing, access resilience during the hiring, identify resilient threats. Yes, I didn't even mention this one in the course of my presentation. Thank God it's here in the actionable insight. Identify resilient traits in the job description. Please mention it in the job description, right? Um, so we HR professionals, job seekers. I'm still a job seeker, by the way, even though I have a job. So we always advise that the the JD should be as um, what's the word now, as transparent as possible, right? Mention the remuneration, you know give a price, the price range for. And I see a lot of organizations, recruiters now doing that, so that candidates will know, if this amount of remuneration is not okay for me, especially if maybe you're hiring tech skills, because these guys with tech skills, right, they have a lot of options. And the first thing they even look, because they know that they have this skill, they can offer value, right? The first thing they want to look at is, what are you offering? So they will know if they will even give it a try at all. So as much as you are mentioning the remuneration range in the JD, also mention the traits that you are looking out for. For example, demonstrated ability of facing difficulty and overcoming the difficulty and all of that. A typical example is in my profile that Seth read, he mentioned that I'm a volunteer assessor and reviewer with RISE program. RISE program is a program from Rod's Foundation that identify young people, I think between 15 and 17 or between 13 and 15. I can't remember the age range now, but it's a very narrow age, right? Who have gone ahead to identify challenges in their community, and they are building projects to scale it globally, right? Right in that, in part of the things that we were reviewing, we were asking them, right? How have you? There are so many challenges in life. What challenges have you faced, and how were you able to overcome them personally as an individual, and even in the project? So mention some of these things that you're looking for in the JD. Let the candidate know that we are looking for resilient candidate, so that it will even help them to prepare. When they are reflecting, they want to come and meet you in the interview. Let them, so that they would easily reflect on their life experiences and pick out this resilient traits, so that they don't come fidgeting in the interview. Provide a realistic job preview, right? So, for example, when I was being hired as a recruitment associate, a realistic job preview was provided for me, and that was how I was able to scale through. I wrote this letter to the school seeking for. I went ahead to even use the company's letterhead and all of that. I even researched to get the name of the person that they told me I should write to, because the job preview was realistic. The data that they gave me was a realistic data. What they asked me to do was realistic, right? So provide a realistic job preview for these candidates during the hiring process, right? In rounding up, I would say, to find top talent in a competitive job market, consider implementing creative recruiting strategies. Some of these can include partnering with universities or training programs to identify top graduates. I remember, our parents telling us stories. I also remember I read the story of Dr. I just hope I get his name right now. Is it Akin Kumi or something? The current president of African Development Bank, who was who is an alumni of University of Ibadan before he grew in rank. I remember one of his story. He mentioned that he was recruited from the university, right? And then I also remember that most of our parents, most of the top. I remember where I did a 1 month job shadow. The CEO, he resigned from Citibank, and when he was sharing his story, he also told us that Citibank recruited them from the university. I don't know why, maybe because of NYSC, right? That's why companies don't do that anymore. But yeah, some of these strategies, partnering with university, partnering with other organizations that have a pool of talent, that you may be looking for, using things like campus ambassadorship to create awareness of your organization and what you do and what you stand for in these universities. So generally, it's just being in the face of these talents, so you can have access to a pool of them, so you can easily sieve out from there, right? And using referral bonuses to employees who refer. This one is also a very innovative approach. Having your employees to refer people, and if eventually they get hired, you give them bonus. Speaking on the bonus, there's something I saw recently that one organization in Nigeria just an initiative that they just launched. That's Workforce Group. They launched an initiative where executives who have from 10 years and above experience, right? these are executives who have worked with a pool of talents, right? They launch a referral program for them, such that these executives are now working with them and for them as part of their recruitment associates, or their recruitment, or their talent hunters. Yes, that's the word. Or their talent hunters, right? But then they are not hunting any talent anywhere, because they are executive and they've worked with a pool of talent over their years of experience working. So all they do is just refer, right? So I'm a C-suite executive who have worked with one Adekunle somewhere, and Workforce Group is looking for somebody who has this talent that I know, that this talent and skills and experience that Adekunle have. I'll just refer Adekunle to them as a C-suite environment and executive. And if eventually Adekunle gets hired, they give me some bonuses, right? So that's also an innovative strategy for identifying this resilient candidate. You could also consider attending job fairs or even industry conferences, where you can just have a chit chat with candidates. I remember somebody sharing on social media one time, or is it Tony Elumelu himself, who shared how he hired a candidate in a hotel lobby, right? From just having a conversation, right? Sponsoring events or webinars, using targeted advertisement to reach a wider pool of audience, right? So on general, I'm learning French. So in general, by using non-traditional recruiting methods, you can increase your chances of finding top talents in a top business environment. Merci beaucoup for having me. I will take your questions if there are any. Thank you very much.
I can see from the reactions that it was quite a learning experience. You shared so much deeply, Stephen, I must say.
Thank you.
Okay, so but let me start off with the questioning trail. I think I'll just have one question for you, so we could bring on Isaac quickly, right? How do you think you can assess resilience in candidates when you are trying to hire them? I know you have made mention of tips such that puts exact personality and traits that you're looking for, incorporate many kind of assessments, but I want to get like a summarizer tip from you, how or how to assess resilience in candidates, because I think many businesses attending here are also interested in that, because they want the talents to last and stay with them through different challenges.
Okay. If I get you right, let me try to repeat your question. You are asking how I can identify resilience in a candidate during the recruitment process, right? So I mentioned in my presentation a couple of ways we can do that, and one of the ones that I really hammered on, I really pressed on, is using personality tests, right? So this personality test can reveal a lot about candidates. So of course, when you're recruiting, or when we are recruiting rather, we are not just looking for one character, one trait, or one value in candidates, right? So let's say you're looking for resilience, but of course you're looking for other things. A personality test can go a long way in helping you to do that, right? So when candidates take this personality test and you get their result, wait a minute. Are you still seeing my slide? Is the questions still showing up in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I want to be sure that you're seeing it, because of the next slide. I have some of my information, how you can contact me. So yeah, you can use a personality test. It can really go a long way to do that. And then I also mentioned using scenario-based questions, and maybe group and team activity, depending that the group and team activity depends on the kind of hiring process that you're doing. If it's a hiring process that is just picking one person, that may not be necessary. But if it's something like a graduate management trainee program that usually recruits, say, a minimum of 10, between 10 to say 50 persons, depending on the capacity of the organization, you can use group activities. And I also mentioned during my presentation that you don't use just a particular strategy for recruiting a resilient candidate, right? Because resilience is a complex trait, right? So you employ a combination of these recruitment strategies. Yeah. So,
All right. Thank you so much. So I will invite my colleague Lucia so she could make introduction of Isaac. Let's have
oh,
another
okay.
power pack session.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
So
Stephen.
yeah, you can contact me through any of these means. I'm active on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and that's my email and my phone number. Yeah, very active on WhatsApp, but please don't chat me up in the middle of the night. Thank you so much for
Thank
having me,
you.
Seth.
Thank
Thank you, Lucia. Thank you.
you.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, thank you so much. I can see all the clapping emojis. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So much lessons to be learned, so much knowledge grab, and I'm excited. Looking forward to the next speaker. We have Isaac Kunle. He's a talent acquisition specialist based in Lagos, Nigeria, with over 5 years of experience. Isaac has expertise in technical recruitment, employee lifecycle optimization, and talent management. He has a master's degree from the Federal University of Technology, Mina, and currently works with one of the best startup health tech companies in Nigeria. As a tech recruiter, he is responsible for selling the company's vision to technical talents across the globe and bringing them on board. He is currently a certified professional in Human Resource International with the Human Resource Certification Institute. Similarly, he's an avid reader and likes to spend time behind the book. He enjoys traveling and meeting people. Please, without much ado, let's welcome Isaac to the floor. Isaac, are you here?
Can you hear me, please?
I'm excited about this one. After the first lesson, after the first, hi Isaac, good to
Hi,
have you
Lucia. How
here.
you doing? Hi, everyone. Good evening. Hope you're good.
Yes, we are.
So if you're still here, please just drop an emoji, your favorite emoji. Just respond to your favorite emoji if you're still here, if you can hear me. Okay, thank you. So just give me a minute to share my screen. Please, I'll have to ask for a little favor from everyone. I would have to turn off my video briefly because of bandwidth. Trying to make sure that we don't have any lags in terms of when I'm speaking, I'm sharing my screen at the same time. Please, am I permitted to do that?
Yes, you can. If it's going to be,
Thank you very
since you've
much.
explained everything, you can, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So please, if you can see my screen, let me know.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So hi everyone. Nice again to have this opportunity to speak to us today. So I'm going to be speaking on hiring for resilience, strategies for finding top talents in a tough business environment. My colleague Stephen, who spoke earlier on, focused on who a resilient employee is and what a tough business environment looks like. I, on the other hand, I'm going to be spending more time on strategies for finding top talent. First and foremost, we need to highlight some of the challenges businesses current. Sorry, first and foremost, we need to identify who a talent is. So you all agree with me that a talent is someone who is good at doing something. Might be driving, might be cooking, might be running, might be computations, might be data entry. No matter what that particular skill set is. You're telling somebody who is professional at doing that, and not just doing that, but also driving the desired business results. Because at the end of the day, you want those talent actions or whatever talent is doing to lead to success of the business. Now, what are the current challenges our businesses face in terms of getting the right talent or getting top talent? First and foremost is attracting the right talent. Yes, why should someone join your company, your organization? So you need to have that why settled. Engaging these talents and data, the inefficient recruitment process, poor candidate experience, and lack of a data-driven approach. These are some of the current challenges being faced by a lot of businesses out there. Don't worry, we'll take time and dive in depthly into each and every one of these challenges. These are the strategies we are going to be employing to solve some of these challenges. First and foremost, for attracting the right talent, we look at using skill-specific JDs, employee value propositions, the company culture, succession planning, and then referral systems. Then we look at how to engage qualified candidates. We look at things that make the recruitment process inefficient. We look at what a poor candidate experience feels like and how we can rectify that. And then we look at a data-driven approach to talent acquisition. So skill-specific job descriptions. Now, what is skill-specific JD? Every day we agree that the first step in hiring a talent is to put out a JD. What's a JD? JD is simply a job description that highlights what we need or what the talents should look like. Now, most of the times we are lost in the noise of just writing out very, very bogus JDs. However, to attract the right talent, we need to make our JDs to be skill specific. Skill specific in terms of we need to highlight the tools required, we need to highlight the mindset or the criteria that are going to be on this JD of that person. Take, for example, I'm trying to bring in a project manager into my organization. And I just put out a JD, 5 years experience in project manager. And then I write a lot of others good in communication, written and verbal communication, blah, 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 and I put it out there. You agree with me that I will get a lot of hits. However, if, for example, my organization is an agile environment, it will make sense for me to indicate that on the JD because that way I'm streamlining the JD. Okay, fine, yes, I need a project manager, but I need someone familiar with agile methodology. That makes it easier for me to get the right talent. Secondly, I also need to identify negotiable and non-negotiable skills. Non-negotiable skills are skills that are a must-have. For example, familiarity with certain tools as a project manager. If, for example, as an organization you use Jira and Confluence, you need someone who's familiar with these tools. Why non-negotiable skills are things that on the peripheral that even this candidate doesn't have, it will not hamper or affect this candidate's ability to deliver. Or these are skills that the candidate can learn in-house. Secondly, we need to look at the employee value proposition. Now, this answers the why should I join the organization? What are you known for? If, for example, I Google your organization's name today, what's the first thing that comes up? Do you have clear cost company values? What sets you apart from competitors in the same business space? Your employer branding, how is the organization perceived? So these are things that an organization needs to have in place to attract the right talent. I'm also going to look at the company culture. Now, company culture, yes, what is company culture? I know a lot of us have heard about company culture, company culture. Now, the beauty about company culture is that it covers even the very basic things. Dressing, work mode, values, a mission statement, relationship in the organization or between leadership and employees, professional development, employee acknowledgement. Now, each and every one of these things tie into the company culture. Now, first and foremost, as an organization in this top business environment, the first thing you need to do is to assess your company culture. What's the current company culture? How do employees perceive our organization? You can do this by using EMPS, that's Employee Net Promoter Score, and pulse surveys. The next thing is you need to evaluate what needs to be fixed. Now, mind you, you're trying to attract top talents. So definitely, after assessing, we will highlight, okay, these areas we're lacking, this is what we need to work on. So the next thing is to evaluate what needs to be fixed. Then we strengthen the core areas. Okay, what are we good at? How can we be better at that? You also have to be a values-driven organization. What is your organizational values? What's it based on? And last but not the least, in terms of company culture, you have to toot your own horn. In terms of storytelling, in terms of testimonials, now that little employee engagement activity you had, What happened? You had it and that was the end? Or did you post it on social media? Did you make use of your company's webpage? Can this information behind you, can it be found by incoming employees or prospecting candidates? Please, if you are still with me, just drop an emoji. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so next is attracting the right candidates. We need to look at succession planning. Now, what's succession planning? Succession planning is whereby you come up with a scheme or an internal framework whereby you're hiring a lot of new intakes or junior staffs, and then you have to plan and groom these people to become potential top talents at the end of their career or at the over a course of a period. For example, you have a head of design today. That person is exceptional, is good. What happens if the person leaves tomorrow? Is there anybody in that team who can step up? Or is there anybody in that team who can fill in the position interim? For these things, as business managers, as TA acquisition specialists, we need to think about these things and we need to plan ahead. Now, the key word for succession planning is grooming and mentoring, because these we are bringing in are entry level people. So you need to groom them, you need to mentor them, you need to coach them, you need to make sure there are training opportunities available for them, not for them to be able to bridge the skill gaps. So if grooming and mentoring would not be possible, then succession planning is something you shouldn't look into. However, the right business framework, succession planning, is also a good way of attracting the right talent. Why? Because it provides top talent in-house as opposed to going straight out to look for top talents when the need arises. Then also have a referral system. Yes, a great employee also knows another great employee. Because why? These people communicate outside of work. They have friends. They have people who does what they do in different organizations. So if your EVP, that's your employee value proposition, and your company culture is great, trust me, your employees will not find it difficult referring candidates to you when the time arises. Lastly, most times when it comes to referrals, we tend to focus mainly on employees. We also need to look at the fact that even other candidates are sources of referrals. Take, for example, I meet candidate XYZ today. It's a good candidate. It ticks all the boxes. And then at the end of the day, he comes and say, hey, I got an offer from another different organization I'd like to pursue. Now, nothing stops me from asking that candidate for a referral. Why? Like I said earlier, a good employee knows another good employee in a different organization. So you might have a friend, you might have somebody else who, oh, yes, I've worked with this person in the past. This person has the skill sets to deliver. So yes, when it comes to referrals, our employees are not just the major point of referrals, but also other candidates are sources of referrals. Now let's look at engaging qualified candidates. Yes, we've attracted the candidates. Yes, they've clicked on the application link, or yes, they've showed interest in the application process. What happens after that? We need to engage these candidates. Now, the first step is we need to have a strategy. Now, this strategy differs depending on the sourcing channel we used. Did you use active sourcing? Did you use passive sourcing to get this candidate? Now, let me explain in depth. Active sourcing is a situation whereby you reach out to the candidates, probably on social media or LinkedIn or whatever platform. I say, hey, we have this job position. Are you interested? This is the JD. Let me know if you're interested. So, are candidates that you actually reach out to. Then passive candidates are those who actually click a job link. Say they go to your career page and they say, oh, this job is open. Why not? Let me apply. So your strategy has to depend on what means or what sourcing channel the candidate used. Now, you also, when you're engaging these candidates, your messages have to be catchy, clear and catchy. Clear in sense of avoid ambiguities, all right? Then catchy in sense of it has to make sense. It has to be engaging. It has to include relevant links or briefs if there's need be. There has to be a call to action. Now, in terms of using A/B testing, what this means is that you have to test what works. Take, for example, you're an active sourcing, or most of your time is spent in active sourcing, and you keep sending a particular messaging templates about 100 candidates, and only 2 reply. There's nothing wrong with tweaking it a little. Okay, what if I do this? What if I do that? Now, you do that and 20 people reply. So you know that, okay, yes, I'm on the right path. These tweaks make some changes. Or you do that and nobody replies. So, oh, I need to make further changes. So A/B testing is a form of carrying out a test on your engagement policies to know what works and what doesn't work. Now, you can also use technology-driven solutions. Now, why technology-driven solutions? It helps you automate a lot of processes. Imagine you have 400 applicants for a position. Trust me, you would not have the time to sit down and compose emails for all of these people. With an automated solution, you can just simply check mark what you want to check mark or highlight those you want to send out prompts to or a particular email template to. And all of that makes it easy. Then in terms of engagement, you also have to use data to narrow down the sourcing channels and also exploit this. I'll talk more on data and because of the presentation. Yes, inefficient recruitment process. We looked at attracting the talents, looked at engaging them, and look at the recruitment process as a whole. Now, this affects cost, the time to hire, and this also looks at the recruitment, whether it's fair or not. So, you agree with me that it takes a lot of manpower, a lot of resources, a lot of cost for recruitment to occur. For example, on an average paid job board, you may be spending about naira, about let's say 2 million naira on an average ATS, 2 million naira per annum on an average ATS. And imagine now for just one position, that position sits on that ATS for 6 months. That's a long process. Or probably because you're waiting for the right perfect candidate. That's a long process, as opposed to when you could have closed 3 or 4 positions within that same time frame. Now, this also affects your time to hire. Similarly, in terms of time to hire, you also need to train and equip your TAT. Training in terms of etiquette, emailing etiquette. Don't just send out the mail, hi, will you be available tomorrow for an interview? No, there has to be an etiquette around that. You need to prioritize interviews also in-house. Hiring managers need to understand that interviews are a priority. Interviews are not something you conduct at your spare time, something you plan ahead for, you plan for. You also need to be decisive in terms of hiring. It's either a yes or a no. Nothing TAs in the group will agree with me that nothing frustrates you more than when you get a hiring manager telling you a maybe. Please, what is a maybe? Is it a yes or is it a no? And yes, like I said earlier, always automate repetitive tasks. Now, in terms of recruiting fairly, also look at the skills you need to assess. Take, for example, you're bringing in a developer, you need to assess, let's say, React as a skill. Yes, that's what you need. That's a non-negotiable skill, understanding of React or ability to work with React. Yes, that is the skill we want this person to have. First and foremost, we need to assess this on time. Now, why this? By the time you assess these skills at the very first or at the very initial stage, it saves you a lot of time when it comes to actually interviewing these candidates because you know that whoever you are interviewing now has the desired or the non-negotiable skill before you start planning out interviews. Also, in terms of recruiting fairly, you also look at using a structured approach. Now, structured approach in terms of having candidates go through the same questions that already was set based on a rubric. Take, for example, like I used earlier on project manager, trying to plan an interview for this person. The first thing you need to do is to highlight a set of questions. Okay, fine, question A, B, C. Now, each and every one of these candidates go through the same questions, and based on your rubric, you need to assess these questions. So, or assess their response to these questions. Now, this makes the process more efficient, makes it easier for you as the TA or the recruiting manager, and also gives you an idea of what you are measuring and makes it easy for everyone at the end of the day. Another strategy we are going to be looking at is the poor candidate experience. Yes, most people have clicked on the link, they've applied for the job, they've been engaged. Now, what was the experience throughout the process? Now, first and foremost, we always need to communicate the process upfront. Those of us here, we agree that will agree with me that during your candidate experience, nothing pains you or nothing was as tedious as when you come for an interview and they tell you there are 2 more interviews. There's another interview after this. And then after that interview, there's another interview after this. And then you're hearing there's another interview after this. It would have been much more easier if they've told you, okay, we have 4 stages in this process. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. As opposed to you getting meals every week for that interview. At a point, it becomes tiring. So we need to learn to communicate the process upfront. We also need to give candidates timeline for feedback. Now, we also need to make it a two-way process. You all agree with me that nothing hurts more than when you send a mail or you send a message and there is no response. Or the popular parlance, somebody aired you. Nothing hurts like that. So we need to make it a two-way process whereby we give out instant feedbacks, give out communications, people ask for updates, we roll out updates in a timely manner. We also need to create a lean and efficient process. Now, lean in terms of who needs to be in the hiring process and who doesn't need to be in the hiring process. We as the TA team need to identify this clearly and need to state this You can also bundle up interview process as opposed to 4 or 5 interviews. You can make it 3. Why can't 2 different interviewers have the same interview at the same time, the same candidate? We need to also prioritize interviews. We need to remove unnecessary bottlenecks, and we need to be decisive. Last but not the least, you can lose top talent due to poor candidate experience. Like I said, nothing pains more than having to receive repetitive mails about interviews next week or without even knowing how many interviews you're supposed to plan for. Yes, now we're going to look at data-driven approach. Why data? You all agree with me that data is life. And why data? Why data? Because it increases productivity. It makes identifying of sourcing channels easy. Now, none of this will be possible without data. Because by the time you begin to capture data, you find that, okay, yes, this approach works, this approach doesn't work. Like I mentioned earlier in candidate engagement, by the time you begin to gather data on what method or what approach strategy you are using A/B testing, you'll be able to know that, okay, fine, approach A works, approach B doesn't work, approach C works. All right. When it comes to benchmark and forecast hiring, take, for example, during the first stage of the process or during your first hiring for a particular role, it took 6 weeks. Now, at the back of your mind, because you're able to capture the data, you can easily identify pitfalls to avoid for the next time or for the next process. You're able to avoid, okay, how can we make this process? You're going to avoid sourcing channels, so you can focus on those sourcing channels. You're able to plan budgeting. In terms of data also, key metrics come to mind, such as cost per hire, turnover rate, source of hire, time to fill, time to hire, qualified candidates by hire. Now, as a TA professional, these metrics are important to us. However, we don't need to measure all of these metrics, but we need to fine-tune and decide which metrics are more important to us. Last but not the least, you also have to use a software-driven approach because why? It makes data collection easy. This cannot be overemphasized because imagine you manually using an Excel sheet to compute all of this information. Trust me, you realize you spend more time imputing data than actually doing the work. Because data-driven approach makes your team predictive and reactive, and it also saves in time. It also saves time, and nothing candidates enjoy more than a speedy recruitment process. In conclusion, finding the right talent is a team effort, not just the job of the TA team. Treat every single applicant like a potential customer. Yes, talent acquisition is like sales. Every customer is a lead, and you have to close a lead. And in closing a lead, you need to be fast, you need to be prompt, you need to be effective, you need to be lean, you need to be adaptable. Recruitment plus management plus marketing is awesomeness squared. And last but not the least, talent acquisition is a constant learning curve. Now, not on everything I've said here is set in stone. You need to apply, you need to know what works for you. You need to keep testing, you need to keep refining the process. Because at the end of the day, by collecting all this data and refining the process, realize that you keep hitting those targets. Thanks very much. So I'm open to questions.
Thank you so much, Isaac. I think it was
Thank
another
you,
insightful time.
Isaac.
I learned quite a lot. Well, I want to start my questioning before maybe I throw it to the floor of any one of the participants that has any question, right? One question I want to ask is you had mentioned in your conclusion that it's an evolving process. How do you see hiring evolving, especially to maybe you can also see it from candidates' past experience, maybe their expectations, how we think it should evolve, or how it's likely to evolve. More like I want to hear your prediction as a specialist. How do you see hiring dynamics of hiring and changing in the future?
Okay, as an evolving process, first and foremost, different organizations have different skill of the process. Some are more manual, some are more automated. So evolving in terms of based on your organizational level, you need to keep improving. You need to keep upscaling, if I may use that word. All right. Nobody has gotten the what's word now, the magic button on hiring. Everybody's learning on the process, everybody's learning on the job. Even Google, trust me, they don't have the magic button. Yes, they have the name, they don't have the magic button on hiring. So everybody keeps learning what works and what doesn't work. So the only problem you have as an organization is when you are set in stone that okay, this works, leave it at that. We're not open, we're not flexible enough. So you need to keep learning, keep exploring new channels, and keep learning on the job. Yeah.
Oh, awesome, fantastic. Another one is that I thought to ask is what let's I would love to learn of any success story of any candidate hire that you think has made like a significant addition by bringing me on board to from all of your engagements. Maybe you can decide to keep any information confidential, but at least a success story will be quite inspiring.
Okay, in terms of a success story, well, initially when we okay, currently where I am currently, and by the time we started initially, we looked at different channels and realized something that for specific positions, active sourcing was going to pay us better. So we put our channel, our energy on those particular active sourcing for those particular positions, because why we have to gather data over time that instead of passive sourcing, waiting for the right candidate to come or to come to our job platform or to come to our career page and see this particular position is going to take longer than actually going out there to meet them. So because we had all this data, we're able to present data and set up strategies for active sourcing. So it's not just one success story, it's a couple of success stories, really tied particularly to a division. And if there's anybody in engineering here that's development, you agree with me that active sourcing, especially for top roles like engineering managers, you know that active sourcing is the one channel, one source to get the right talents because it makes it easy for you than waiting for these people to come from their, if I may use the word, their high heavens to come and click on your career page or the job ad on your career
Okay,
page.
really, thank you so much. Now, I know you had mentioned engineer. Are there other roles that are also experiencing this kind of peculiarities where active sourcing has to be the best strategy to use?
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, yes. Most times, especially when you're looking for talents outside of the Nigerian sphere, active sourcing is something that you really need to explore, right? As talents outside the local markets, active sourcing is something you really need to explore because based on a lot of factors, brand exposure is something that counts. All right. So most of the people are not probably exposed to your brand, or they really know about your company in probably in passing. Okay, I read about this and I move on with that. So active sourcing is something you need to explore. Now, in this case, also sort of active sourcing, you need to look at exploring your what's good now, your engagement strategy in terms of preparing a brief. So that brief makes it more easier or gives them an idea of, okay, hey, this is what this company has done, this is where they are, this is where they were. So it makes it easy for you to, when you're reaching out to people, for them to get a better understanding of what your organization stands, what your organization is. Because of different geographical terrains, it might not be easy for them to have an in-depth understanding of what your organization does.
Okay. So maybe I can also throw and Steven is free to respond too. Based on your experiences, how do you think, or where do you think the bulk of the cost of acquisition happens? Is it in the ATS software? Is it in the process? Is it in the recruiters themselves? Where do you think the actual cost lies in acquisition process of top talent?
Well, it depends on the organization. Take, for example, your average ATS costs you, let's say, 2 million per annum, right? And then due to some bottlenecks internally, you have a role spending 6 months on that ATS. Now, in terms of cost for hire, you have to look at a lot of factors. Cost for in terms of manpower that is being taken for those doing the interviews. Now, if your organization is one that has 10 interview processes, I mean, to use that, I know it's not to 10 anyway, but it's possible. Some have 6, 7. And each man hour they spend doing interviews costs you, let's say, 100,000 naira a month. And you have 7%, that's 700,000 naira already. Added, this is a rough estimate, mind you, a lot
Yeah.
of kind of calculators out here now. Added to the already 2 million naira set for the ATS platform, right? That's 2.7. As opposed to someone that has a very lean process that probably 3 interviews, that's 2.3 for that person. And so a number of factors come into play when calculating costs, not just the
Okay.
ATS.
So, Steven, are you on board? Let me get your opinion too, sir.
Yeah.
I think you can stop sharing, Isaac. Thank you so much for the insightful session. I think now we're just having a roundtable
Thank you very
discussion.
much.
Yeah.
Every
So, oh, sorry. Hi, Seth.
Yes,
Can
we
you
can
please
hear
hear
you,
me?
but we can't see you.
Oh, oh, okay. I see you can hear me. I'm really
Uh,
excited section there, Isaac. I'm really honored to to be doing this with you. And somehow I would say that I'm glad that I spoke before you, because you kind of expanded on, some of the points that I mentioned. So it was more like, John the Baptist came to be a forerunner for Jesus Christ. So yeah, really, really, really insightful and elaborate session, and to think that you delivered in such short time, right? So I would want to, just chip in something about the intentional hiring that, Isaac mentioned. It's just like, so, hiring and job hunting are like a twin in, going in the opposite direction, right? So the employee or the job hunter really needs this job, and you, who is the talent acquisition specialist, really need this talent. So as the job hunter is employing intentional means to put him or herself out there for the job, you are also, like Isaac said, making intentional moves to get these candidates. I would again cite an example with our hiring in our recruitment process in Teach for Nigeria for the fellowship application in particular, right? Now, we see that for candidates who we make intentional moves towards, people who we go to speak to in campuses, in religious organizations, in youth gathering, who we capture their data right before the fellowship application process opens, and who we engage in things like information session, enlightening them on what we demand from their essays. These candidates have gone ahead to demonstrate the skills that we need. And when we are reading these essays at the back end, they perform higher than people who just, we're asking you to tell us about your leadership experience in an essay of at least 250 words, and you are just telling me my leadership experience is when I was serving as a core member. I was the president of NYSC. Like, those ones are even more. Some will just give you like 5 word sentence, right? So the need for this intentionality is key. Seeking out for these candidates where they are. Then to the last question that you asked about where the cost lies most, I think again I totally agree with Isaac. It depends on what the kind of candidate you're hiring, or what you're even hiring for, right? So in Teach for Nigeria, where I work with the team that hires, for the fellowship, and we do with a large number. And I can easily say that we spend more money from the top of my head. Of course, I don't have that concrete information, but I can easily say that we spend more money in trying to be intentional in reaching these candidates, right? So in going to NYSC orientation camps, in going to their CDS groups, organizing workshops. That, for instance, the for this year's hiring, we are really looking out for candidates who have entrepreneurial mindset or entrepreneurship skills. Candidates who have started one thing before in their life, even if it's something as simple as having a WhatsApp group where you share some things with young people, maybe opportunity, or you teach them how to make Greek yogurt, something as uh, seemingly relevant as that to the recruitment process. But yeah, we organized a workshop called a social innovators workshop, right? So all of these intentional move, we spend more money in them compared to what we spend in the other hiring processes for the fellowship recruitment. I don't know about the internal hiring process because I'm not part of that HR team. So yeah,
Okay.
that's it for me.
Thank you so much, right? So I'll invite you to share for any other comments or questions that she may have, right? And for me, it has been an enlightening experience. Thank you, Stephen, for coming on board. On behalf of all of us at Borderless HR, and also to Isaac, thank you. Lucia, any question or comment?
Not at all. Just to thank Isaac and Stephen. It's been a wonderful experience, and I appreciate your presence. Thank you.
All right. So, and then for Isaac and everyone of participating, we'd love you to test out Borderless platform, right? I think we have a talent pool that you can always query to see if your ideal candidates are there. So we're also making sure that it's pre-vetted and standardized so that you could always have them through times, right? And we're also building business tools, right? That will enable businesses to manage and hire seamlessly. So we encourage you to test them out and also recommend them. And to everyone that's on this call, please do try them out. Thank you so much, and do have a
Thank you.
nice evening and weekend wherever you are, whatever your time is. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.